गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we're going to talk in this CASA web discussion on countering China-Pakistan dynamics. And to dwell upon this important topic, I have a set of very senior and knowledgeable experts. First, of course, is General Narasimhan, my classmate, who's been a DA in China, and he knows China like very few of us know. Then, of course, General Satish Dua, the co-commander, he knows Pakistan quite a bit, and as the chief of integrated defense staff, he's handled a lot of Pakistan affairs. And of course, China is part of the equation. Then, of course, our third participant today is Mrs. Tara Kartha, who is, in my opinion, one of the genuine people who can really dissect Pakistan threadbare. And she has been in the, National Security Secretariat, and she's written extensively. In fact, I've had the pleasure of co-authoring a couple of articles with her. Right. Welcome to Gunner Shot, ladies and gentlemen. I'll not, without wasting time, let me set the stage. We all know Pakistan has gone through a set of elections. Good, bad, or ugly, there's a government in place and it's struggling to get going. Simultaneously, certain things are happening in China. There's a certain amount of instability in China, but China is quite assertive in its own way. Given this kind of a sentiment, both sides, we also know Pakistan and China are iron brothers, higher than the mountains and deeper than the seas kind of a relationship. So in this kind of a thing, and with the West Asia crisis where it is, increased activity, China-Pakistan activity in North Arabian Sea, where they've been carrying out a lot of exercises, and the fact that China, exports 40% of Chinese arms exports go to Pakistan, and 55% of net imports of Pakistan, arms imports, are from China. That's the kind of interdependency they have. We recently heard of a ship caught off the Bombay coast with certain equipment which is meant for nuclear, effort, and that was basically from China. And that earlier it was proliferation. Today it's complete support for Pakistan nuclear program. Despite this, besides this, there's a huge debt overhang which is not going to run away. The CPEC, whether it is successful or not, has a presence in POK, Gilgit, and Baltistan. And on our own side of the border, Kashmir is changing the way it is changing as never before. And in the well-being or the ill-being of Kashmir, China and Pakistan have a huge role to play. Or rather in the ill-being of Kashmir, we all know Pakistan has had a huge hand, and China has not actually been far behind. And we all talk of the collusivity between Pakistan and China. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take an assessment and then see how the whole thing can be countered. Right. So the first thing I'd request each of you will, in about 5-6 minutes, please give your assessments of the Pak-China dynamics as it is obtained at this point of time. I'll first ask General Satish Dua to please jump in and your views, please.
Thank you, sir. And Jai Hind, everybody. Let me start by, I'll be brief. Let me start by talking about Pakistan first. I mean, what is it that makes Pakistan so important? I think there are two major factors. One is its location, and the second is its nuclear capability. Now, location, it has such a good geostrategic location. It abuts India, China, Iran, Afghanistan, the Central Asian region, the Arabian Sea, and by extension, several other countries in the Gulf. If it is very interesting to note, I mean, my mind just goes back to something. Let me just state this. It may be a very stray thought. About 7 decades ago, Pakistan was a pillar against communism, which was notably USSR and China at that time. It was part of two US led treaties, CETO and CENTO, by virtue of its location. And let us also recall that during those years, that is in 50s and early 60s before the war broke out, India and China both shared a colonial past, had recently been had started their journey together. Both jointly gave the principles of Panchsheel to the world until the 1962 war happened. It's after that war in 1963 that by a treaty, Pakistan handed over Shaksgam Valley to China, which is everyone knows that that is uh, Indian territory, but in Pakistan control. So they handed over Shaksgam Valley there, and then that's where their relation, China-Pakistan dynamics, started improving. Then in the 70s, Richard Nixon and Kissinger era, that is the time when they started cozying up to China. And then we saw a nexus shaping up between the three of them at that moment. I'll not dwell more on that. All I wanted to bring out was the fact that in geopolitics, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, there are only permanent interests. And today, as we know, the China-Pakistan dynamics, as Janil Shankar, you just brought out, sir, you use the word iron brothers, deeper than the oceans, higher than the skies, all that kind of thing, epithets that we keep hearing. Now, their relationship between the two, between China and Pakistan, has found new moorings, has found new heights, because one, they both support each other fully. Pakistan supports one China policy. It it supports China in South China Sea, Taiwan, Xinjiang, Tibet, all other issues. China supports Pakistan in its territorial integrity. As you brought out, there is convergence. In both of them have disputed territories as they feel with India in J&K or erstwhile J&K. Now Ladakh is a separate union territory. So there is they both, and that is why today we talk of a two front threat or a two and a half front threat because of these two adversaries as far as India is concerned. You brought out something about that seizing some equipment meant for Pakistan from China. That is there. They might, in my view, China might, because of the economic state that or economic doldrums that Pakistan is in at the moment, they might go slow or hold back on the CPEC corridor, but their military aid, their nuclear aid, help in the nuclear process, all is bound to continue. We also see that China's hand, Pakistan's hand in fomenting trouble in India, in Kashmir, is well known. I don't have to talk more about that. We know how Pakistan is pushing in terrorists, how Pakistan is fomenting trouble across the board. But China is not far behind. It is the LAC issue that we know for last 4 years. We have seen them stir up trouble in at the LAC. We've seen how information warfare, cyber warfare, and also their hand in several unrest and riots that happen in our domestic scene, how their hand gets played out. And we are going to see more of that. All I would like to say is that as far as China is concerned, let's cast our mind back to a couple of centuries ago where India and China both uh, put together contributed to over 50% of world's GDP. So if China wants to be the number one superpower, it will seek to suppress India. That will remain in its interest. I would like to end this over here and we'll talk about our response to the situation as we go by and by. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You brought out a few important issues. One, Pakistan's importance due to its location and its nuclear capability. And you nicely brought out the swing in Pakistan's stance from being completely an anti communist state to a state today which completely supports a communist China and an increasingly communist China, right? And the fact, and that, and the shift came about the time when Pakistan midwifed the China-US relationship, right? That was a time when Kissinger hopped to China through
Yeah.
Pakistan, and under the pretext of having a stomachache and being ill for 2 days, he went to China, and the rest things started. But the most important thing which we started with and which you reiterated is this business of the common disputed territories either side of J&K, which we have to deal with. And uh, actually, you hinted at something which we would like to I will discuss as we go along. Is there a likelihood of a synergy between the LAC and the LC likely to develop? Uh, the collusivity might not be in actual the conventional way we look at it, but there is something more, and the interest of China to suppress India and using Pakistan as its cat's paw. So this is the main thing which you think, and we'll see how to tackle this a little later. Now, with this, I'll request General Narasimhan to come in and probably give it, like, because Satish gave the whole thing from a Pakistan viewpoint. So let's look at General Narasimhan giving this China dynamic from a Chinese viewpoint. Over to you, General Narasimhan. You have to put your my audio on. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar, and thank you, General Satish. Nice to be on this show, on this dialogue with Thara. I am going to do both from Pakistan as well as China. I am going to give you 6 points mainly. The first one is, we all know Pak needs China. Nobody has got any doubt about it. Pakistan needs China for many, many things. One of them is, of course, to ensure that there is financial support, because Pakistan has always been running to China at the first drop of the hat to gain some kind of assistance from China. That is point number one. The second is it also needs political support, in the sense that Pakistan's standing, even in the Muslim world, is not so well positioned. So it needs a support politically wherever issues are getting discussed in UN, particularly, for example, proscription of terrorists living in Pakistan. You find that China always supports Pakistan. So Pakistan needs China is something which is a given. My own understanding is, as much as Pakistan needs China, China also needs Pakistan. This is something which probably you will not hear in many places, but this is my understanding. The reason for that is very simple. CPEC is not a very economic project. Economically, it is not a very viable project in any manner. But what it does is that it gives access to Arabian Sea to China. This is one of the things that enables China to overcome this Malacca dilemma. One, China-Pakistan economic corridor coming from India's west, China-Myanmar economic corridor coming from India's east, both leading, one leading to Bay of Bengal, the other one leading to Arabian Sea. The access to Indian Ocean gets very much there. So that is point number one. Point number two is friends for China are also very less. When I said Pakistan doesn't have many friends, so does China. China's friends are also very limited, and its soft power is not very high. It is now pushing its way through with the economic might that it has got, but soft power wise, it is very low on all parameters. So you find that China also lacks friends, and so it will need some kind of support from Pakistan. The third thing, of course, is very clear, that is to contain India, China needs Pakistan anyway. So to keep India actually within the South Asian region, contained within the South Asian region, it needs some kind of opposition, and that opposition can be given by Pakistan. So these are the issues why China needs Pakistan and Pakistan needs China. Coming to China-Pakistan economic corridor, I know it has been going slow, but even when Pakistan's economic state was really poor for the last about year and a half, in October 2023, that is just about 6 months ago, they have signed the agreement on Mainline 1, that is a railway line connecting Peshawar to Karachi at a cost of $7 billion. So the issue is, even though they may be having doubts about Pakistan and its economic status and its ability to return the loans that has been given by China, China will still continue to support Pakistan economically and also with the CPEC, maybe at a slower rate, but it will continue to be there. And Gwadar, of course, is something which will come up subsequently. So these are the issues if you look at it. China needs Pakistan and Pakistan needs China. I'll stop here and then I'll take on the question subsequently.
Yeah. Uh, Thanks a lot. I think you made a very, very valid point. Oftentimes, Ajkal, everyone thinks it is Pakistan which needs China, but the dependency is on the other way around also. In fact, if I go back in time, uh, China and Pakistan was one of the first countries which recognized China also. And Pakistan has always supported China politically as much as today China is supporting Pakistan politically. You just connect it up with the midwifing of the relationship between USA and China. It couldn't have happened but for Pakistan. And if you cast our minds back, at that point of time, the Chinese economic condition was not very good, whereas Pakistan was very tough relatively. And I don't think China has forgotten this great thing, because it was only after that the Chinese economic miracle really started. So that's a very important point you made. And China as being friendless, it gets access to Arabian Sea more from Gwadar being a base, and it gets a physical presence. I don't know whether the tail of the mainline one will ever work through the Kunjrat Pass, right? But it gives a base and a presence in the Arabian Sea, which is pretty important. So there is mutual need for containment of China, and China will continue to support Pakistan for times to come. Important points. We'll get back. These are dynamics which are there, and this is irrespective of which government is in Pakistan. And I also would add to what you said that irrespective of which government is there in Pakistan, it needs China's support to succeed, or rather, exist. Okay, in whichever form it is, and even the Pakistan army needs that kind of a political support from China to continue to do what it has to do. That's my view, and I'm just adding on to what you said. Right, Madam, you heard these things. I would like you to throw in your view of the Pak-China dynamics, because you've always had a different view on all this, and I wouldn't say a different view, a novel view on all this. So over to you, Madam.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to take that thing on a slightly different view. And I'm coming to the present right now, right? I think
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we are sort of fast forwarding to the present. Given that it's, the Pakistan debt and its whole economic situation is so bad, we are talking of about 82 trillion debt end of December, right? And about 80% of debt service is to China. If you look at that kind of a very bad scenario, a lot of short-sighted people are taking a lot of pleasure in saying that, oh, Pakistan's in grief, that's great for us. It is not great for us, because I think from iron brother, it has now shifted to an iron clasp. China has got a stranglehold on Pakistan. That's not necessarily good for Pakistan, and therefore not very good for us either. In this kind of a situation, I'll just take you back also, General Shankar. Imran Khan did not support CPEC as much as the others did. He, in fact, I think his economic advisor at the time had said, we are going to review the entire thing, because it's not giving us enough. There's not enough jobs. It's causing poverty, debt crisis. Imran Khan was not China's favorite person. Right now, there are a couple of things which happened thereafter, after which we'll come to later. I'll come to those details later. Now, this Shahbaz Sharif government is going full tilt in getting these projects going. In terms of even the CPEC, they've just had a statement recently where I think the minister said 5 new economic corridors are going. I'm not clear what those corridors are. The strategic investment facilitation, that the SIFC, which is army run, if you look at the dateline, you will find that much of this has speeded up significantly after October 9th. Now, 3 days before October 9th mayhem happened, all that chaos happened. 3 days, 4 days before, the Chinese foreign minister was in Pakistan, who's of course now disappeared. I mean, he was then in Pakistan, and very unusual statement. In public, he pulled up Bilawal Bhutto and said, "What are you doing? What are, please sort out your this thing in Pakistan. We expect you to do that." And he said this publicly, which all of us know they generally don't. This was on, if I'm not mistaken, this was October 6th, if I'm not mistaken. October 9th, they picked up Imran Khan. And, and after that, it's all history. What happened to Imran Khan is a different story. I'm not making a direct correlation because I don't have enough information. I'm just looking at the flow of events. Then came this, the immediate task which this government did as soon as it came in was to call an emergency meeting of the SIFC. So, number three is China is not interfering in this whole IMF thing. It is not giving them money. It has rolled over its loans, but it is not giving sustenance. And from what I've heard from the chatter outside, China also wants Pakistan to pull up its economic socks because its investment is there. So, when we say China's about 60 more than 62 billion, I think was the last figure. General Narasimhan may correct me because they said it was 23 billion more than what the IMF had said. So it's a massive figure, huge opacity. We don't know exactly. Nobody knows. I mean, you had a state bank governor who said, I don't know, what is the extent of debt to China. If you look at some of the state bank reports, you'll find one tiny footnote somewhere saying this much of billion loan given to the Pakistan army doesn't go through the banking system. It's not to be seen. So this is the situation right now. What I see is China has pulled up Pakistan, told them to get funding from elsewhere, which is why you have the Strategic Facilitation Council, Strategic Investment Facilitation Council, headed, staffed, and run by the army. And it's also told them to get a whole, what shall I say, it's economic directions very clear, because otherwise the belt the belt and road initiative is going to get unbuckled. That is what you're going to find. There is a lot of money at stake here. So I'll stop there. So it's not good. What I said, again, I'm reiterating, The iron brother now has an iron clasp. I stopped it.
Okay, right. The Iron Brother has an iron clasp, uh, and there's a the debt overhang, everything. And you actually reiterated what we've been saying, that the Chinese have very clearly a hand in the Pakistan politics, and they're very clearly supporting the Pakistan army financially and otherwise. And China has a complete stranglehold on Pakistan, but they're not willing to go beyond a point. That's the second point. Otherwise, Pakistan wouldn't be running to IMF to sort out their thing. And as far as GPEC is concerned, everyone says 23 billion, 42 billion, 62 billion. It's all ephemeral, because I am very clear in my mind Pakistan will never pay back one naya paisa to China. And China will therefore have to extract the whole thing strategically, right, or geopolitically back from Pakistan. And that geopolitical debt which Pakistan is now hereafter going to be saddled with for its complete hereafter, for the foreseeable future, is what we have to actually start countering. How do you counter that? And how do you see this dynamic going to play out against you? And how do you counter that is the issue. And that's what we're going to talk of in the next this thing. So let me get back to General Satish Dua. So we've seen very clearly what is the whole thing about the current assessment. Pakistan completely in debt with China. It's under China's thumb. Many people call it a vassal state, but I don't think it's completely a vassal state, because China also doesn't want to get saddled with Pakistan as its province, because that will be a very unruly province and unappetizing province to handle, right? It will give that leeway for Pakistan to go all around the countryside, but still continue to depend on it. And China needs Pakistan for its presence in the Arabian Sea. If the Arabian Sea presence of China is endangered, China's lifeline energy is endangered, and its hold, or rather its ability to contain India, is also in question. So this is where we are as far as the China dynamics are concerned. So, but let's get back. Let's get back to the effect on the JNK and how that can get stabilized, because ultimately the rest of the things we can handle. How do you handle JNK, and how do you handle any provocation on the JNK, which could be instigated by China, and and a provocative action could be taken by Pakistan, and how do you preempt it, and XYZ, and if you are to be Pak centric, and also give a message to China. Your views, General Dua.
Thank you. Now we are at a very interesting point, because we've spoken about their nexus, and we've spoken about their relation, China-Pak dynamics. Now, where do we go from here? Uh, Clearly, both so broadly, let me try to rephrase myself, to start by saying, I think we need to be firm at the tactical level. India needs to be firm at the tactical level, but a little flexible at the higher diplomatic and other levels of engagement. I'll explain that. When I say firm at tactical level, we have to look at the dynamics of the LAC and LOC. At the LAC, for last 4 years, we have mirror parity, mirror deployment. We have increased. We have actually invested more uh, money, attention, focus, time, everything in enhancing our infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, it is not only the road infrastructure, which we have. There has been, the Narasimhan will bear out that there have been great strides in the last 5 years than ever before. But when I say infrastructure, it is also the communication infrastructure. It is also all kinds of connectivities that have increased. because that is also very much required for the network centric warfare that might emerge. So we are headed towards a LOC like situation, with a little difference that the situation on the LAC as of now is stable. It is not as volatile. It is not a tripwire kind of defense, which LOC is. And so we need to continue to hold firm, which I think we have done. The Indian Armed Forces have done an admirable job. And since I said Indian Armed Forces, let me also bring out the fact as to how Air Force is doing a great job in terms of our uh, parity at the LAC. Even the naval maritime surveillance aircrafts have been pushed into action over here. And I'll not talk about, not to mention about other effects that the Navy is creating pressure at other places. But all in all, this is where we should hold on to the LAC the way we are doing, and continue to increase our infrastructure all across the LAC. We saw the Prime Minister inaugurating some, and also another 1,400 crores worth. I may be slightly wrong about the figures. Worth projects were inaugurated, and so that kind of things have foundation been laid. Those things are on. LOC. Uh, to my mind, as summer approaches, LOC will be activated by Pakistan, and we have of late been very firm. The ceasefire has by and large held. It is my guess that now that there is a new government, Pakistan is in economic doldrums. It just might happen that for more reasons than one, and I will bring out the reasons also, they might activate the LOC, at least in terms of infiltration will increase. Whether or not the LOC cross-border firing, so-called ceasefire violations increase or not, that remains to be seen. When I said more reasons than one, some of it will be at behest of China. China would want our forces to stay more engaged over here. Let us recall that 3 years earlier, or 4 years earlier ago, we actually pulled out some forces from JNK and put them on the LAC, uh, even the RR formations, Rashtriya Rifles. So they would want us to remain engaged on the LOC, all our forces to be engaged here. And the other reason is the internal state of Pakistan. It is at a very weak spot economically. We know about it. Politically, it's at a weak spot. The military, the equation between the military and the politics is uh, tenuous, as I would say. Uh, right now, it is firmly in control, but Imran Khan factor is a big factor that remains to be seen as to what is going to happen. I mean, with the number of ex-PTI, since they are not fighting under a party, or have they not contested under a party, how that will play out remains to be seen. After all, the public has voted for ex-PTI legislatures candidates. So, also to distract from the situation internally, Pakistan is likely to uh, activate their forces in Kashmir or across the LOC. Having said that, let me end by saying, talking about how what I meant by saying, but we need to be flexible at a higher level, which we are doing. We, on Pakistan front, we have said no talk without till the terror is off the table. So no, we are not talking unless Pakistan shows visible action on controlling, reining in terrorists, which we really know is not going to happen in a hurry. On the other hand, with China, we have been engaging. Mill to mill talks are going on. Diplomatic parleys are happening at, I think, more than one level. Our trade is booming. And I think we should continue to have this border personal meeting, the talks at different levels, continue to engage with China so that we leave our channels open, and uh, we make sure that LAC does not become a tripwire defense like the LOC. I'll stop here.
Okay, thanks a lot. You made a couple of great points, and the first being that you have to be firm at the tactical level and flexible at a higher level. Uh, the way I read you when you say firm at the tactical level, if Pakistan does something like infiltration or
Yeah.
any attempt of this thing, we retaliate, and we retaliate with appropriate force. I'm not taking full force, appropriate force. And with the LS against the LSC, we'll have to continue by talking to them, and continue with the co-commanders meet and all that, and keep it at that, and keep our deployment up. Of course, like you said, China will prod Pakistan into activating the LAC, LC. Of
LOC.
course, there's one other factor which we've not discussed. This time from now to maybe September, October, will be critical for us within J&K because of the elections which are to happen there. And you can't really have any disturbance in this area. And the elections going bad is good news both for China and Pakistan, right? So I think we'll have to keep that in mind and as part of our responses, uh, right? And yeah, so let's get to the Narasimhan, your views on this, and how do we handle this new dynamic which is developing?
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Can't
you
hear,
again.
yeah,
Couple of
yeah.
things which have emerged with both Satish as well as Thara speaking. One is about Imran Khan. Look at the way they've handled Imran Khan in Pakistan. Okay, he objected to CPEC initially when he came to power, but within a matter of 2 to 3 months, he fell in line. Ultimately, the powers behind holding up this governments in Pakistan do what they need to do. So that is one. Second is, look at the way he and his wife, Imran Khan and his wife, have been handed over one punishment of the other, having so many years of imprisonment being handed over to them in quick succession in a month's time. So that is basically they understood that they need to handle Imran Khan. Even though the PTI's more than 100, I think 110 legislators are picked up as independents during the elections. The very fact that Shehbaz Sharif has been able to form a coalition government tells us as to which line this Pakistan is going to take in the near future. And Shehbaz Sharif was actually nominated by his elder brother, Nawaz Sharif. So these are all happening in a manner that they intend to prop up this government and they will probably hold it in place. The second thing about the 5 new corridors that are being talked about, these are actually, they are not actually corridors for infrastructure, but what it says is it's corridor for growth, corridor for employment, corridor for innovation, corridor for green energy, and lastly, corridor for inclusive regional development. I mean, it's all a couch in a vague kind of a thing. How this is going to pan out is anybody's guess. The third thing about the value of CPC, it is 62 billion. You're right. When Tara said 62 billion, she's right. But out of that, so far, only 25.4 billion have been deployed in the last 10 years. If you see the Lowy Institute's report of August 23, it clearly lays out how much has been spent on this. And on the weaknesses in Pakistan, irrespective of the weaknesses in Pakistan, whenever we interact with the Chinese in either track 1.5 or track 2 dialogues, when we raise this issue, they clearly come back and tell us, yeah, we understand all your sensitivities, but Pakistan needs the support and we'll continue to give the support. So irrespective of what state Pakistan is in, I think Chinese assistance to Pakistan is going to continue without any kind of hindrance. That is, they may make them cry a little bit, they'll push them a little hard to return the money, but ultimately they'll bail them out in some form like the IMF and others do. The being flexible at the diplomatic and strategic level. As far as Pakistan is concerned, it is not for want of trying that this relationship had gone bad. You look at the way Mr. Gujarat started opening up towards Pakistan. You look at the way Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee started opening towards Pakistan. You look at the way Mr. Narendra Modi, when he came to power, he opened up with Pakistan. But none of them have proved to be successful. So the problem is irrespective, in spite of India reaching out time and again to improve this relationship, the reciprocation has not been forthcoming in the same measure. So you have a problem there, and I think we need to understand the problem. As far as China is concerned, we have been always following a policy of, I would say, a bit of accommodation, starting from say 1988 when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi went to China onwards, till about 2020 when relationships really went bad because of the Galwan incident. You find that we had decided to set aside China-Pakistan relationship and decided to grow the India-China relationship on a separate track. That proved fruitful till about 2008 onwards, till about 2008. And from 2013 onwards, you find the border incidents picking up in speed. 2013, you had the Dipsang incident. 2014, you had Chuma. 2017, you had Dolam. 2020, you had incidents all over the line of actual control. Things started going south. The problem is when we say that we'll have relationship as normal, but we'll treat boundary issues separately, like the way China wants it. Unfortunately, it has not helped us in any form. So therefore, the decision was taken. Basically, enough is enough. Let's say that unless this LAC comes to some kind of stability, we are not going to improve that relationship. We also heard voices that at the higher level the talks must commence, and that will probably ease the way out between India and China logjam that we are in at this point in time. But the problem is we don't know that the other side is also keen on doing that. Officially, people may be knowing. I don't know. I'm sure people on the panel wouldn't know this. Unless Chinese are also coming up in equal measure to say that we should have this dialogue. And if you only start doing it from your side, you will start on a weaker note. I think we should be very careful on that. I will leave it at that.
Okay. That's a very interesting issue which you brought up. Of course, the first is that China will support Pakistan is a given. That has to happen. It will continue. And it is in everyone's interest, it appears, that, Imran Khan and his poor wife are kept in, captivity for a long time to come. I don't see them coming out to destabilize anything in this cozy setup which is emerging. The only thing which is very clear to me is that this cozy setup is completely antithetical and inimical to India as it will roll out. Right? So, China, right? The bigger story in this whole game is that China, while we might continue to talk with them on the border with all those things, but we still have to continue with the current line of the Indian government, is that the border LAC first and the rest later, right? And whatever it takes, because I don't think at this point of time, if we change track, it will be seen as a point of weakness. It will be seen as a weakness and stepping back, both from Indian public and from the international viewpoint, and then Chinese will completely grab it. And I think what General Satish meant by saying be flexible in terms of keeping doors open, because the trade you can't turn off, that will continue. Yeah, and that's about all. But I don't think at any stage he did mean that take a step back. I don't think we can take a step back, and that is something which is well nigh impossible. With this kind of a thing, let me ask Mrs. Tara Kartha, Madam, what do you think should be India's stance, and how do we handle this new nexus which is developed? I'll say new nexus. It's not as if the nexus has changed wholesale. There are new shades to this nexus. That's about all. Your audio.
Like I was trying to emphasize is that there is a greater dependency now from on Pakistan and China. The extent of dependency is much more. There are a couple of things which are very curious about this. I mean, this is just like sidetrack. When Pakistan just did a missile test, right? Ababil, it says it's moved and whatnot. It did, I think, three or four last year. It's going ahead with this, like we said, this Mumbai thing we had. Where is it getting the money from? I mean, you had a broad estimate of North Korea $3 million for a short range missile and $10 million for a long range missile. Where is this money coming from? So either it is China is helping Pakistan to an extent, because I can't think of any other way, right? When this country is broke, it doesn't have enough for imports, and it still goes ahead and keeps firing missile after missile. How is it being done? Now, given this dependency, and given the fact that there is a fiber optic line, we know that there is a submarine cable line, there is all sorts of things which the PLA is using Pakistan for, but it does not operate from Gwadar as yet. It is making no move to do so. In the event of a very serious crisis, my reading of Pakistan is it would prefer to back off. It doesn't have the money, it doesn't want to fight anybody right now. But does it have the independence of decision making in such an eventuality? That is the crux of what I'm saying. Does it have that independence? I don't know. I looked I would really welcome General Narasimhan's views on this. The last statement when Asim Munir had gone to General Asim Munir had gone to China, you look at the statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry. It sounds so much like a security agreement, the way they're talking. We guarantee your territorial integrity, we guarantee your unity. I mean, this is, then I compared that to the statement between Pakistan China when Shahbaz Sharif had gone. It is so much stronger. Okay. So there's a lot which I think is changing fast. And General Narasimhan, also the ML1, by the way, is not yet, it is not funded. In fact, the cost estimate has gone down. It's gone down by, I think, about 2 billion, whereas it should have gone up given the inflation aspect. It has gone down. The loan facility is not yet clear. I don't think China is going to give any money. So, because it's supposed to be half and half. I mean, the Pakistanis are supposed to put up half or something like that. They don't have the money to put up that. So that's why I'm saying the kind of relationship between Pakistan and China, which was always a bit, topsy turvy, has now gone completely to one side. And interestingly, it is the Pakistani analysts who are going all over the world saying, oh, we are so dependent on China that the US must help out. And that argument is being heard. So they are saying a whole, because of the Indo-Pacific construct, the Pakistan-China, friendship has become that much closer because China is worried about the Indo-Pacific. That is what the Pakistanis are saying, and it seems likely to me. You look at the way they played up the joint exercise in it was in the Sea Guardian. The way it was played up in Pakistan. Sea Guardian occurs every year. I think this was the eighth, if I'm not mistaken.
Eighth or ninth. Yeah.
Eighth or ninth. I think it was one of those.
Yeah, that's
But
okay.
the
That doesn't matter.
Pakistanis played it up like nobody's business. But still, the Chinese are not sitting there. They're not anywhere. They come to Karachi, they go Gwadar. Why is it that Gwadar is still? I mean, I just half an hour back, I checked the number of ships arriving in Gwadar. Nothing. There's nothing there. So it's a very, very strange situation. At the moment, I don't think Beijing wants to put in any money into this country. But at the same time, given the extent of dependency, Pakistan's ability to decide what to do is, I think, somewhat, what shall I say, compromised. I'll stop there.
Okay, madam. Thanks a lot. You raised a few issues, which I think, let me attempt to clarify also. You've spoken of a greater interdependency. I will not say greater dependency of Pakistan with China, rather, or Pakistan's greater dependency on China. I'll put it this way: there's an interdependency here, right? Like what was said earlier also, because as much as uh, Pakistan needs China. Pakistan needs China basically for money to get over a problem. But the other point of location, which right in the beginning, which General Satish Dua brought out, China needs Pakistan for that location, for the connectivity and its reach into the Arabian Sea, as which uh, General Narasimhan also brought out. So that interdependence will not run away, and I think that interdependence goes beyond money. The day-to-day issue of developing CPC mainline one, running Pakistan is a separate thing altogether. And I think today this aspect has come out well. In fact, in the last discussion I had with or other members of CASA, what came out is there are two Pakistans we are dealing with, and we have to be cognizant of this. The first Pakistan is a Pakistan which is, I call the military Pakistan, which suffers for nothing, which lacks nothing. It has everything, whether it's aircraft, whether it is submarines, or whether it is spares. It's getting everything, and it is there, and it is showing eyes to you, and it is behaving the way it wants, everywhere. Then there is a political Pakistan, or the country called Pakistan, which is in all kinds of problems. And these two are completely disconnected. So oftentimes in India, we are talking of this political Pakistan, but dealing with the military Pakistan without actually dealing with it militarily. So that's the dichotomy. And I feel, this is my view, I'd like your opinions on this from each of you, that more or the Pakistan-China nexus is between the military Pakistan and the communist China. And that is what we need to probably handle. And that is what is giving you, whether it's a nuclear, enhanced nuclear cooperation, Gwadar, X, Y, Z. Now, if I may attempt, Gwadar is not a finished port. They wouldn't like to come and put something on Gwadar because Gwadar doesn't give them full benefit as it. It's not a base. It's just not berthing a vessel out there. It's not a going in and out. A base means it needs protection, security. It needs the ability to do refueling. It needs the ability to do rearmamenting. So there is much more. And Gwadar is not developed so far. And I think China, at this point of time, is a little strung up for money that it can't progress this beyond a point. And the backwaters of Gwadar are not as it developed to support a base. If you have a look at any American base all over the world, that area has flourished because the base has a lot of interaction with the hinterland. And the hinterland in Gwadar is absolutely poor at this point of time. And there is no question that of its development in the near future. So I think this is a dichotomy which we will have to live with. Okay, I've heard all three of your views. I want a small thing. How do you handle this new dynamic? That's the question. That's what I'm interested in. Their equations will continue. How do you handle this new dynamic? Is the issue. 1 minute each. Satish, your take first. With all what we have come so far, we're facing a situation.
Um, I think, in short, the answer is we'll have to live with it. Their dynamic
Okay.
is not going away anywhere. This will remain, and we have to. When I say live with it, the only way we can live with it is, apart from various tactical steps that we discuss, that we improve our infrastructure on the LAC, we be firm and bold at the LOC if when required, and things like that. But I think we also need to understand, when I say we have to live with it or deal with it, uh, we have to become militarily strong. If Pakistan, like you said, the military Pakistan is is actually gaining strength, which is far, which outstrips the economic or political Pakistan. We have we also have this nexus, in the nexus which a lot of military aid is going to flow from China to Pakistan, which is flowing from China to Pakistan. So we need to be militarily strong, whether it is the Indian Ocean or the Arabian Sea side, whether it is our responses, our military capabilities with the platforms, with all the new age warfares, whether we talk of the gray zone, hybrid, in every aspect, we need to step up our military capability. That is the only way that we will be able to deal with the China-Pakistan nexus.
Thanks. Your take, Narsi.
Couple of things I'll just clarify and then finish with within 30 more seconds. One is
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
money for the Pak missile
yeah,
test.
no
Okay.
problem.
See, please understand the coalition support fund which US provided Pakistan that amounts to approximately $34 billion in 15 years time. And when we did some kind of an assessment earlier, assessments reveal only 10% went towards fighting terrorism. Remainder 90% nobody knew where it went. Okay, that is one. Second thing, China also funds whichever way the funding comes, we don't know. Saudi Arabia, because Pakistan is seen as the front for the Islamic bomb when atomic nuclear test took place. So that support comes from some other aspect. So funding is not a big issue because if North Korea can get the funding for all this test that they are doing with all the sanctions that they have faced for the last 60 years, there will be no surprise if Pakistan does it. So that is one thing that we need to keep in mind. The second thing is about the Sea Guardian. Why it was flashed all over in Pakistan is because of the scale at which it was held this time. The scale was far higher than the previous Sea Guardian that took place, and the number of ships that came from China to take place, including submarines, etc. That is what actually gave that hype about the Sea Guardian. I agree with Shankar when he says military Pakistan and communist China. Obviously, military in Pakistan is the hand that runs everything behind the elected government in Pakistan, and so I have no thing. Gwadar is an interesting case. You said that there are no ships coming. I agree with you. There are no ships coming there. Gwadar has got enough problems on its own. It doesn't have drinking water. Actually, Saudi Arabia is supposed to do a $2 billion worth of project for bringing RO plants into being. But interestingly, China has said that they will create a township of 50,000 houses, which can house approximately 500,000 Chinese there in Gwadar. So this is surprising. If this is the kind of thing that China is planning for Gwadar, if not now, in future, we need to be careful about Gwadar becoming a base. At the moment, it has got nothing. It has got no support, nothing, absolutely. And of course, it is located in Balochistan, which is going to be having a major problem all the time with the insurgency situation out there. So these are issues to deal with Gwadar. Now, how do we deal with this? We should take our mind back to 2020 when we had this issue with China on the border. What all did Pakistan do? What all did China do to use the space or territory of Pakistan? If you keep that in mind, it gives you a sense of how things will pan out in future. Like for example, there were rumors that a couple of divisions had moved out, the Air Force has moved, PLA Air Force has moved certain forces to Skardu, etc. But most of them turned out to be false, by the way. So while I understand that when India and China have an issue on the border, Pakistan might pitch in some form. Maybe it will increase terrorism activities. Maybe it will do something to hold forces in on the line of control. The vice versa may not be very true. Chinese are not known to fight anybody else's battle. Very clearly, you look at the entire history of 2000 years plus. They have never gone and fought anybody else's war, other than one they did in Korea. That is because of the communists. They don't fight anybody else's war. So I don't expect China to button when Pakistan, India are involved in some kind of a conflict. But they will do all that kinds of support. They'll give you equipment support, intelligence support. They'll probably move some forces along the line of actual control to hold you, and they'll support Pakistan in the UN. All those things will happen. But the physical involvement, I think, will be too much to handle at that point in time even for China. There I'll stop.
Yeah, let me clarify this one issue because you've taken that, China might not support Pakistan, but Pakistan might support China. I have a slightly different view, and that's also based on the evidence so far. I don't think Pakistan also will support China in case of an eventuality. For the simple reason, there's a public grouse in Pakistan that China didn't support Pakistan at her time of need, especially in 1971. And I remember in 2020 reading a lot of viewpoints in Pakistan which said that there are no free lunches either way, and there's no free lunch for China also to go, and that we have to take up arms against India. And there's a very, very clear thinking and I think this thinking would be there in many more higher places also, that whatever happens between India and Pakistan, sorry, India and China, if Pakistan intervenes, the loser will be Pakistan. That thinking is there. So I don't think, for us to presume yeah, that there'll be a collusion and forces from either side will attack us. I think it's far-fetched. But the rest of the support, intelligence and logistics and infrastructure, political, will be there. Like China, not, those terrorists, not to be declared as terrorists in UN list, all that in UN, all that will be there. But then these things we are living in interesting times. We don't know where we are going. Okay. And I'd like to add one more point in this is, something which I've not spoken of often in my channel, but I think I'm getting a realization about this, and I'm sure you'll all agree. The conventional form of war is receding, at least in this area, and a more hybrid or a gray zone form of war is coming in. And I think it's time, if I may say so, I put this across, that it's time that India starts going hybrid. We've been very good at counter hybrid. We've been, very good at counter insurgency. When the world is going towards hybrid and gray zone, is it the time for us to start thinking on these lines? Because it's a big shift. In any case, conventional war between nuclear neighbors has a very low threshold. Right. I've given a few provocative thoughts. Madam, your take on this.
No, I think we're already well into the gray or whatever you want to call it. I think we had that recent leak, General Narasimhan will remember, on China's cyber, infrastructure. My God, it's massive. And they've said they're targeting India. It's a prime target. So all that is going on. There's also, but however, there's one thing I want to say. China was saying that the CPEC is open to everybody. Right. They would like it if you also join CPEC. What are you fighting about? Why don't you join CPEC? All that stuff is going on. Last government of Imran Khan and his General Bajwa had said that we need to have optimize Pakistan's strategic space as a strategic corridor, which actually is not much. There's not much trade that we can do with Central Asia. I mean, it's not a lot, but okay, it's possible. There is nothing better that China would like. They would like you to trade across Pakistan and somehow stabilize this extremely unstable state. But the thing is, I thought about it in the sense that okay, maybe this is something we should do, but I don't think there's much in it for us unless now Pakistan has said that they've asked the US for clearance to get the Iran pipeline through. If that comes to Pakistan, it has to come to India. Otherwise, it makes no commercial sense. So things are moving very rapidly. This is a time I think Delhi's got multiple options. There is, I'm told, track two already started. I don't know if it's true. It is already going on. And if you can't beat them, well, join them. you know. So there's a lot of. I think we need to be very, very nimble. And luckily for us, the present government, especially Jay Shankar, he's the nimblest foreign minister you can ever find. So we're good. I think we're doing well.
So fine. So you feel we are good, and with all this gray zone and hybrid acting, I mean, this is my conviction that we need to go hybrid. And I don't think at this point of time anyone is talking of trade with Pakistan or trade through Pakistan. I think that's a far thing away. And I don't think any government in India is even thinking of joining the CPC by any remotest dream.
Absolutely
So
not.
that's out of the equation.
No, that sorry, that was
Actually, what I was
sorry, just to specify what China is saying. I'm not saying we should join it.
what China is saying is the thing, but what ultimately I'm looking at, how do you counter this dynamic? And our dynamic, the way we have to counter it, I get back to what General Satish Dua said to wrap up the whole show. And of course, what all of you have said is that this equation between Pakistan and China will continue, and then too much of mutual interdependency. Today, it might seem like Pakistan is dependent on China economically, but I think geopolitically, China is quite dependent on Pakistan. And Pakistan is the window into the Arabian Sea. and into the Islamic world to a large extent. And the only way ahead, the way I look at it, is you have to be very firm at the LAC and the LOC. The kind of firmness you show on the LAC might be different from the kind of firmness you show on the LOC. And you might have to start thinking of switching to a hybrid form of system of warfare, which we have to start thinking. And this is a thought which has been coming through in quite a few of my talks, but let's see where it goes. I'll take a few questions now, right? Unless any one of you have anything more to say on this. Yeah, please, madam.
One point regarding
Yeah.
this hybrid warfare and the gray zone. This has been already been in the works. Even in India, we have started working on it. And so I think we need to be rest assured that the hierarchy at this point in time is looking at it very closely. And I'm sure we are working towards it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Anything, madam?
No.
Okay. Satish, take questions.
Thank you.